to him, and it was easy to understand why. He was a great man, renowned for his achievements and in his importance. Yet the stigma of the skin disease caused revulsion and rejection by those who saw him. People didn't like to be around him that much, right? So such a contrast would make anyone desperate for restoration, including Naaman. But was he desperate enough to trust an unlikely source? Now, was he desperate enough to trust this little girl who was his wife's servant to give him information about God's man, right, that could heal him? He wasn't open to it at first, was he?
Who was the woman? God, her God.
Her God. It was her God that could heal him. Her God that could heal him. But was he desperate? Let's ask that question. Was he desperate enough? Not at first. I wouldn't think he would be. But verse 2 tells us that a young Israelite girl served Naaman's wife, and she had been captured by them. And we can assume that her place in the household was the bottom of the ladder, right?
That's right.
Based on the fact that she was a captive and a young girl. And the disparity between her status as a slave and Naaman's status as a commander of the army and a warrior could not be anything greater. He was on top of the ladder. She was on the bottom, right? No one could anticipate that the solution to his problem might rest with her. You never know, do we? We never know where God is or where he is, who he is using to get to us. That's right. We never know, do we, sis? And he uses a lot of people. A lot of unimportant people, would say. And she was unimportant, not important at that time, you would say. Showing deference to the master of the household, the Israelite girl made known to her mistress, she talked to the wife, the presence of a prophet in Israel who could cure Naaman of his disease. She told the wife, right? She went to the wife. Said, I know somebody that can cure him. Is this coincidence? Not at all, it says. This was God's hand at work through an unlikely person, right? Through an unlikely person. And sometimes we're blessed in life through an unlikely person, aren't we? You ever met someone and they just lifted you up so much? An unlikely person that you just never had anticipated that they would lift you and give you give you some good things to go on with and give you strength and more belief in God. So God used a Jewish servant girl here to point Naaman's wife to the prophet of God, a Jewish servant girl who had been captured by their army. Okay, this shouldn't surprise us. God's word tells us that God often works through the small and the weak, don't he? And in lessons past, we saw God multiply a small amount of oil to fill a multitude of containers so that it could be sold. You remember that lesson? To provide for the widow's family. And Jesus used the 5 barley loaves, right, and 2 fish to feed over 5,000 people. And my wife was looking in the Bible the other day, and she said, this wasn't the only time this happened. This happened some other times that he fed a lot of people with a little, So he used a lot of things and a lot of instances in here to help people. And God isn't limited to working through insignificant or unlikely things. He can work through unlikely things to get to the problem and the root of the problem and solve our problem. He also works through unlikely people, it says, just as he did with the young servant girl in Naaman's household, which sometimes surprises us. Don't it surprise you sometimes who it comes through, Brother Campbell? It do, don't it? Just like the little boy the other day that I was telling you about. He touched my heart, He really touched me, and I've told that story quite a few times about what he said, about his sadness, But
if we be obedient to God,
right.
He'll give us them nuggets.
He'll give it that to you, won't he?
Them nuggets, as I call them. Yeah.
That's right. But it said, honestly, we're not fans of those which qualify